Hello, and welcome back. It says I'm not streaming. Let me refresh that. Hi there. How's it going? We are offline. Hang on. No, we're streaming. We're good. We are also in the book that bangs the hardest and the most, Socrates and Jesus, A Dialogue in Heaven. We have been gaining some bitchin' insights the last few eps. We have been building the map of mind, the map of understanding. Turns out to also be the map of reality, the map that allows us to recognize the different dimensions of reality, the different kinds of enlightenment experiences, the two models, the map of mind that can be experienced directly, and its cause, the self. In this map, we're even able to identify the different cognitive functions that people move through or move in and out of. So we can recognize people's stage of development or evolution, because this map also is the map of evolution. As species who have evolved into the use of two primary things, ousia and logos, the ability we have of our mind to turn around and know itself, the ability we have to reflect on our own mind, our own thinking, to recognize that not everybody's the same. People are in different stages of development. People are making sense of the world in different ways. So, having recognized that, someone might wonder, well, what are the different ways people make sense? What are the different cognitive functions that humans perceive through? Well, it fits on this map. We've identified 5 or 6 primary ones. The 2 that account for ignorance and the cause of human problems and suffering. The model being belief, and the activity being strict dualism or materialism, that which is acts in opposition to our benefit, our goodness, our well-being. Because it's the activity based on the model of belief, and of course, belief has to function in opposition to understanding and knowing, because that's what it is. And it's an imitation of the actual model, so it has to be in opposition of the real model. The real model is knowing. So, materialism or strict dualism, or materialism is just one way you can reject mind and self. We're all just things, we're all just stuff. But you can reject it in a lot of different ways, so the word for that is strict dualism. There is a mind and body, and never the twain shall meet. Or there isn't even a mind, even that. So there are varieties, but strict dualism, or to put it more simply, because that's a clumsy word, materialism. There's just the material. Belief, the imitation of knowing. The next stage, understanding and knowing. So understanding being the activity of knowing or mind. So the true use of logos, our rational capacity, our ability to use words to make sense of the world. Understanding. So our purpose, or our stage of evolution that we're in currently, is to move from belief into understanding, from stage 4 into stage 3. Understanding is what we're making use of to revert on the map, because the use of understanding the excellence of understanding is attained by using your understanding to reflect on the model of understanding. In other words, you want to make a Lego spaceship, you better look at what parts you have to use and what the goal is. That's a clumsy analogy. By reverting upon the model of understanding, we know the whole and its parts that we make use of in understanding. Therefore, the skill that we are here to master in time or in part form is the dialectic. The dialectic is the skill of understanding. But as that use of understanding to revert upon the model of understanding, mind is also a contemplation or meditation, in that it's a sustained focus with an open, curious state of mind and use of our highest vision and understanding. It's formally meditation. So it's also the spiritual method, All other meditations take pieces of what we just said and not the whole thing. So some have focused concentration, some have questions, some have a focus on something that exists eternally, some don't. But only one has the addition of understanding as well as all of the things. So it ticks all the boxes, making it the map of meditation. So the map of understanding is also the map of meditation. It's the map of evolution, it's the map of cognitive functions, so we can recognize where people are at, but it's also the map needed to help people. If we can recognize the cause of human problems isn't that you're just evil, or any horse shit like that, we can put that to bed and recognize, oh no, it's simply the cognitive function of belief in conjunction with its activity, materialism, or opposition to true mind and self. In opposition to our own benefit. So our self-sabotage. And the activity is its own kind of meditation, but on a fake model. So we're doing what we're supposed to be doing anyway, we're just doing it on the wrong thing. So all our problems are solutions that are misapplied. Or you could even say we're all expert meditators, we just have terrible object of meditation. Or we're all expert students, we just have a terrible teacher. So a lot of fun analogies that I just came up with, that I just used, and that's the fun that you can have. Once you see it, you can have fun with it. So human problems are caused by this fake model that we don't even know we have. We take it for granted. It's common sense, bro. And the activity based on that model, which is a self-fulfilling prophecy and also a kind of further entrenching in that false belief. But it's a false belief about those two levels of enlightenment. It's a false belief about reality or mind, and it's a false belief about yourself. Which is why its activity has to be in opposition to the truth. So people who are the most addicted or closed-minded in their beliefs, sexists and racists and fascists and stuff, they really, really hate anybody who thinks for themselves or likes to use reason or understanding. So the people who represent understanding, they are hated by the stupidest people. And by stupidest, we mean the most entrenched in their false beliefs. So all human problems come down to those two things, that model and that activity. Together we give it the name ignorance. And what it's in opposition to is wisdom, which is the actual model, mind, the map of understanding, and its activity, the use of understanding and the dialectic. So, human history is a battle of of ignorance against wisdom. We're at war with our own benefit and mind. That's human history. Pretty neat, and it fits into the map that we've been building. What do you say? Pretty cool?
All checks out.
All checks out. So, another thing about the dialectic and wisdom is it's the activity needed to reflect back on ignorance. So we are entrenched, we're fiercely, violently loyal to our stupid-ass beliefs that are the cause of our own problems. Our lives become a suffering of that and a looking for instances to play it out on other people. Get the money, get the power, so I can be the bully. I can be the one doing the thing. Do unto others the same injustice that was done unto me. But it's understanding that solves problems. And if you think about it, yeah, of course it does. How can you solve a problem with your engine if you don't understand how an engine works? How can you solve a problem with your toaster if you don't understand circuits? Obviously it does. So, and by the way, you can't use understanding well unless you are reflecting on the model of understanding so you know what it is you're doing. Now, there are some people out there who are naturally gifted and are naturally attracted to understanding, naturally find themselves using the principles of understanding, which ironically are principles, looking for universal principles, seeking to apply universal principles universally, looking at the causes of problems and even the preconditions of problems. That's understanding. But of course, you could be the most gifted athlete in the world, but To be a real champion, you have to recognize what it is you're good at and perfect your understanding by reflecting on the model of understanding that's using your mind to know mind. And it also prepares you to experience it directly in that enlightenment experience called the brilliant light of being, or knowing everything all at once, like that movie, Everything All at Once. So, wisdom is the solution to human problems, knowing and understanding through the art of the dialectic. It's also the solution to our excellence. Therefore, it's the meaning of life. But there's one more stage. Oh, and by the way that we do it, if we perfect our understanding, which we need for the dialectic and the art we're here to master, by referring on the model, we're not looking at physical things. We're looking at the model of mind, which is non-physical. But because it has scope over the physical world, being the cause of the physical world, it's higher and more primary. It's a higher dimension called the world of being, because it eternally exists. And of course it does. It would be weird if you were doing something that used these things and okay, so the map of the mind is we're looking at nouns, same, different, whole, part, but the same itself, the whole itself. And they have a scope over the physical world in that it's the cause of the adjectives. So you might say, I'm wearing the same shirt as the other guy at the party. Now, if you take your shirt off and you're not wearing the same shirt anymore, it would be very weird if sameness was less of itself based on what we do in the physical world. Or if you had a beautiful painting and then you spilt coffee over it, no foreshadowing, I don't want to do another spill, got my coffee in front of me, then you wouldn't say, well, beauty itself is now less beautiful. No, of course not. Beauty is still beauty, even though your beautiful thing or adjective, or the beauty used as an adjective, even though that can change, the thing itself is still itself. So we're looking at principles that exist universally, eternally. Beauty itself, whole itself, same itself. So our activity is to move from descriptors or specifics, a beautiful painting, a beautiful streamer. I make that joke a lot. To from a beautiful streamer to beauty itself. From to the. Which is interesting because there are some languages who are stuck in their problems because they don't have a word the. So a really important key word. But as we say in this channel, don't worry about it. Put the croissants on the menu. Now the word croissant is an example of a French word that we need. If we don't have it, you can't see it, you can't use it, you can't order a croissant unless you use the word, but it's not an English word. Oh no. What are you going to call them? Freedom rolls? Ooh, ha 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 ha. So if you are from a culture or language which doesn't have the word the, or from a tradition or religion that doesn't have the word the, then add it in. Put croissants on the menu. Now there's some other key words that we're recognizing are ousia and logos, because as we recognized, wisdom is ousia and logos, the model and the activity, the all at oneness of knowingness and its use through time in parts. Ousia, the capacity of our mind to know everything all at once, to know itself at once. That's ousia, that's the model, that's the paradigm, that's the map. But the activity is language and reason and logic, and not just logic, but language, reason, seeking our excellence, that's the logos. So you need the word ousia and logos. Because if you notice that to describe those two words, I have to use a lot of different English words. Reason, understanding, language, conversation, etc., etc. But not just that, that to which we move. So ousia and logos are two words we need to add to our language. because it's the fake ousia that's belief, and it's fake logos materialism. That's ignorance. That's the cause of our problems, and the real ousia is mind itself, or nous, or knowing. Nous in the Greek, you can add that if you like, and dianoia, or understanding. That's the logos. Now that's really fascinating, because the activity or skill that we can develop as human beings that uses ousia and logos is the dialectic. Dialectic asks a series of structured, ordered, there's your logos, questions about yourself or your false beliefs about self and reality, or about your false beliefs about self and reality, to perfect your wisdom or purify your ignorance. So it's causing you to reflect. Ousia, through questions. And understanding, because you have to answer the questions. So it also gives you the opportunity to use logos, but also perfect your dialectic yourself. Because the way that you answer the questions, as you improve, you can hone, you can polish it up, improve your answering skill. So logos and ousia, that's what makes us different from the cows and the caterpillars and the cabbages. We can ousia, we can reflect on ourselves, and language, we can use language or logos. So we make use of our most evolved functions through the dialectic. That's also the activity of wisdom, and it's what's needed to solve our problems and create our excellence. Pretty neat. So, but going back to this map here, belief in materialism, ignorance, the fake map and the fake activity from the physical world of appearances. So people in beliefs imitate. So they're not very thoughtful, they're not very creative, they can't do jokes or humor. They're very boring. To them we say, no, this will be harsh. The true model is ousia, and its true activity is logos, nous and dianoia, or capital K knowledge in the English, and capital U understanding. That's our wisdom. And that's using your mind to turn away from your physical senses and experience mind itself. All this is from the text, by the way. All we're doing is bringing all of the pieces together of the text we've read into a whole, which is reading. We're just reading. Now, it's a different kind of reading that you're taught at school. That's all we're doing. But there's something interesting here. We have this physical appearance, the lesser, the world of becoming, model and activity. We have this overlap where parts and whole overlap. So really, in the realm of being, the greater, wisdom, knowing and understanding, nous and dianoia, we're still experiencing otherness. We're still experiencing parts. See, we're still in this circle. She's red. We're still in this circle here. We're just at the top of it. Now, another fancy word, which is English, so you don't have to freak out. It talks about the top or the highest aspect or the fullest flowering is hyparxis. We're just at the hyparxis of the lesser. When I say, okay, there's two uses of the word lesser. Now, when I say lesser or greater, I'm talking about the units or the map, the Lego pieces of reality and perception and understanding, whole and part. If there were no parts, there couldn't be creation and different dimensions and cabbages and cows and caterpillars and fusion jazz music. Also, there can't be creation unless there was the principle of difference. If everything was the same, if everything was one and not many, so one and many, same and different, whole and parts, they're necessary for anything to exist in the unfolding of creation. But here we see those two terms, whole and part, can all be represented as this Venn diagram. So this experience of wisdom or bliss or pure beauty, or brilliant light of beauty, I should say, is still in that lesser realm. It's just the top of it, see? So this human struggle between ignorance and wisdom, and therefore putting an end to punishment, because punishment is stupid. All human problems are solvable with wisdom. So if you're punishing someone, you are just being sadistic and stupid. To that we say.
Would you just blow in from Stupid Town?
Wait, Stupid Town? You blowing from Stupid Town? See, look, we're still in this realm where this red circle is. We've got the crappy activity in the crappy model, or the good activity in the good model. Pseudo-logos or patho-logos. Now we can actually have fun and say, actually, technically, even though ousia is the model or the oneness, and logos is in the activity, they're not different. You use logos to reflect or turn about on yourself. And when you ousia, turn about on yourself, you recognize the intelligence of yourself. You can understand yourself. You can know yourself. So there's logos. This is logos at once, and this is logos in parts. So even though this is more ousia than logos, and this is more logos than ousia, they are aspects of each other. That's an important word. And now as an analogy, you can think about the idea that, hey, when you jump out of a plane, when you're parachuting or something, what you really notice is wind resistance, because it's the most powerful thing. It's like, well, but if you say, hang on a second, I'm experiencing the principle or the law of the physical world called wind resistance, you could say, actually, aren't you also experiencing, I don't know, magnetism and gravity? And so, well, actually, yeah. I mean, they're there. It's not that they aren't there. It's just that wind resistance is the biggest principle. Sure, there's magnetism happening, and there's, nuclear forces and electromagnetic forces and gravity. I suppose you are noticing gravity, I guess. When you hit the ground, I guess you'll notice it, but in other words, the laws, while you might be experiencing one more stronger, they're all there at the same time. The physical laws, right? So that's an analogy we can use to understand the idea of aspects. One of the great betrayals against philosophy is at school they teach you the word forms, Plato's forms, as though they are separate physical things or shapes. Garbage. The Greek word that they are mistranslating because of their ignorance, their false belief and false activity, is the Greek word eidos, which is an aspect, because it comes from the word to behold. You can behold it or ousia it all at once, and what you're beholding are all of the different principles as a oneness. So logos and ousia are a fantastic example of this principle of aspects. They're not parts, they're aspects. They're different, but they're not different. And that's a dumb way of saying it. They're not different, but they're distinct. How about that? So equally so, if you have someone that says, philosophy, that's all phooey and spiritual fairy stuff. I'm a pragmatist. I just do push-ups. And I get all my goals because I am alpha bro. And I drink alpha podcast milk or whatever. Well, yeah, that's your activity of materialism. That's acting in opposition to your own excellence, learning how to use your understanding, evolving through these cognitive functions, and you're in opposition to your own goodness. But there's still an underlying belief. Who convinced you of this nonsense? Even before Joe Rogan There must be some underlying belief about reality that causes you to not reflect on your most important, significant quality, mind, and yourself. So there's still a belief there. Just as believers say, oh yeah, I know all at once that you can't know heaven, or you can't know what happens when you die, or anything other than Mormonism is the devil. But they still act on it. They still, I don't know, burn Harry Potter books, and they still, I don't know, yell, "You're Satan" at people who do meditation. Whatever the crazy people doing. So logos and ousia are words to explain the model and activity, but they're interrelated. So these, even though there are cognitive stages of development or stages of evolution, but also cognitive faculties, they are all themselves aspects. We have them all, because all of this is in self. All of this is one. How can we say this? Because in this Venn diagram, we've been talking about this lesser section, the many or the parts, but there's this greater section, the whole and parts, one and many, self and other. But what makes it the greater is that it's more primary. It has scope. It's the cause of... So all of the nouns that we look at here in mind, that we've been talking about in the map, cause the physical world, cause things to be same and different, beautiful or fake beautiful or whatever. And the highest aspect on the map is this section here, which is one, but not touched by many, which is self, but not touched by other. Meaning this has scope over everything. It's causal of everything. It's more primary and higher in reality. So in other words, everything else is its shadow. It's all in self. It's all caused by one or self and in self. And as we evolve, we return back with this dialectic skill in our back pocket. So this whole thing, we're all of it. We are ourselves aspects. Eidos. So while you're at church singing Kumbaya to Jeebus or to Joseph Smith if you're Mormon, or not Harry Potter, Lord Xenu if you're Scientologist, or Abraham if you're, or Moses if you're Jewish or whatever, you are experiencing this aspect of belief more strongly, just as if you jump out of a plane, you're experiencing the physical principle of wind resistance most strongly, but there's still nuclear forces, there's still electron forces, there's still magnetism. All of the other physical principles that you learn about in physics are still there. It's just you're right in the middle of this one. Or it's the most prevalent. By the way, that's what accounts for the stages of spiritual development within that brilliant light of being. And metaphysics is explaining those aspects. When you experience oneness, you experience beauty, you experience justice, you experience harmony, you experience excellence. But some people, depending on what level you're at, are experiencing more of the beauty. Some people go into it a bit deeper, experience more of the justice, and metaphysics is just recognizing those aspects and then just ranking them. That gives us the 10 ox herding pictures. The 10 ox herding pictures are, in Buddhism, that explain, while it's just a single spiritual experience, there are stages of development within it. Aspects. So while we're recognizing the cognitive functions that human beings move through, we are in all of them. So when you're singing Kumbaya to Jesus, you are most in belief, that cognitive stage here, but you're still in this activity a little bit, in that you're rejecting the true existence of mind because you're settling for belief. You're settling, the oneness that you're getting is a oneness of being in a super church or whatever, and not the actual oneness. So you're still doing this activity a little bit. You're still using understanding a little bit. You have to understand how to get to church. And you're probably looking around and you're understanding, I'm not going to sit next to that guy. He's a bit of a creep. So even though you're all Mormons, you're not the same. No one's beliefs are the same. So you're still using your understanding a little bit. And as you're imagining this fake reality with whatever your religion is, you're still using your mind. So you're still making use of your mind. And there's still the self experiencing it all that. The self is just falsely identified with the beliefs right now. So while they're cognitive stages of development, because it's all in self, they're aspects. Our job is to direct our attention to the highest aspect so we can recognize the truth and function in a proper way, a more ideal way. Ignorance is having this part of yourself diminished and attached with this shitty version of yourself, belief. So they're all aspects that we can move out of. Like when we're in all the time, we're just more strongly identified with one over another. So I was mentioning the better sorts of people that are more skillful or naturally adapted to understanding. Even though they grew up in a family with beliefs, they grew up in a society with all its cultural and political and religious beliefs, they may never have gone through the act of philosophical midwifery, the use of the real activity of understanding to purify, to go through the activity of purification of their false model. So they've still got their beliefs there. They're just more naturally adapted or skillful or talented, that they're in this most of the time. And maybe they even have insights or divine luminosity experiences every now and again. Now, without understanding it, they might not recognize it. They might forget about it. So these are the cognitive stages of that human beings are in to recognize our evolution. Our job, therefore, is to cross this line between ignorance and wisdom by learning what understanding is, and that's why we read the book. The book that we're reading, or Pierre Grimes's books and Socrates' books, give us what we need to use our understanding to revert on the model or map of understanding. That's how we perfect our understanding. The philosophical midwifery detaches us from our loyalty to what keeps us dragged down. So that's interesting. But we're still in this, whether it's these two in wisdom up the top or these two in ignorance down the bottom, we're still in the lesser circle of the Venn diagram. You're still in others. We want the self. We want the higher term. We want the thing that has the scope over all of it. Just as we want understanding so we can understand our physical world because it has scope over it. We want understanding so we can understand our beliefs, so we can free ourselves from our ignorance because it has scope over it. So too, we want to be the self which has scope over both the realm of being and wisdom and the physical world and ignorance. We want to know the self. We want to know what we are. What are you? What's your excellence? How do you be your authentic self? We want this part of the Venn diagram. So what's fascinating is the previous stages of humanity, Jesus and Socrates, or the ignorant and the wise, are all within this scope. So even wisdom, the highest aspect of wisdom, it's still within others, self and others, or manyness, one and many, or parts, whole and parts, the bottom circle I'm pointing to. Which is fascinating because that might awaken the purpose of wisdom. If wisdom, or the divine luminosity, or the greatest experience, or everything all at once, is still everything, is still other, is still that bottom circle, but because it's in this overlap, it's the parts experienced as a whole. So in the highest experience, you, divine luminosity, you're experiencing everything that exists. So you don't have to go through the ups and downs and whatever, because you can bring all of the problems, all of the ignorance, all of the particles, all of the souls together at the very top of this circle. So it's in a single experience you have as a whole, or as a oneness, all other. If your goal is to know self, you have to distinguish it from all other, because self and other. So instead of going through your life saying, I'm not you, I'm not you, I'm not you, how about you experience the top of all of the difference, so same and different, the top of all of the manyness, one and many, the top of all other, and experience all otherness completely in one thing. So you only have to point to one thing and say, that's not me. Whatever this self is that I'm on the hunt for, to know the self, it's not that. Because that is the top, it's everything. Isn't that neat? Yes.
The more holes, the better.
Exactly. This is the whole of all of the parts.
And I find that very entertaining.
It's very entertaining.
No, you're not the one that's mentally unwell. You're brave. You are
Brave.
crossing into new boundaries.
We're crossing into new boundaries on the stream. Isn't that cool? So the greatest possible human experience is here, the top of this circle, which gives you in one experience all other. All other. So you can look at it and go, wow, that's amazing. That's the most beautiful, blissful experience. But because we have the map, we won't get stuck, as Plato says, dwelling in the isles of the blessed. We won't get stuck thinking, I'm going to stay here. Because we recognize, even though it's the greatest experience, it's the greatest because it gives you in one experience everything. All of time, all of the things, all of the growth, all of the evolution, all of the differences, all of the many, all of the parts. Or, using our map, these pairs that we bring into a oneness with understanding, all of this side, all of the parts, all of the differences, all of the unlikeness, all of the motion, all of the limits, everything in time. Bringing it into a whole. So it's a whole of all parts, same of all difference. As a one likeness, all unlikeness. Completely as one thing, so you're at rest. Everything that's in motion. Completely unlimited, all of the limits that could possibly exist. Out of time, everything in time. So we're using the greatest of these two together. but in one experience. So what we will do by seeing this and having spent our life developing this map by using our mind using our understanding to get the map of understanding, we recognize the significance, the purpose of the greatest experience is not to get stuck there or addicted to it or attached to it or identify with it. No, we recognize that ignorance is to attach yourself to something false, and we know from the map the self is there. So even if we attach ourselves to luminosity, that's a kind of ignorance. There's a danger. That's the danger of enlightenment. Enlightenment without understanding. Right? Which is a mirror of love without understanding. If this is the most beautiful experience, and without the understanding, without the logos, without this map, you might get stuck there. So too, in loving relationships, you could be with the most beautiful girl in the world, but without understanding, you could get stuck there. I'm addicted to your physical appearances. I'm not going to wonder about what makes you beautiful. We're not going to develop as people. I can just be a simp. Lots of problems can unfold with beauty without understanding, or love without understanding. And that goes all the way to the top, baby. Because the greatest experience, or the greatest thing that we can love, because this is called, we call philosophy because we love this experience because it's the most beautiful. That's the danger of enlightenment without philosophy, without the logos. Same thing, the danger of being in a relationship with a beautiful girl without understanding. Get addicted to it. You think it's the most real. Hey, you think she's the realest real. Fantasies as well. Problem with fantasies we've been reading, we think it's real. So what we are seeing is, hang on a second, this is the significance of returning to the self, to that highest dimension or scope. Cracking my back. Played music tonight. Long night. The significance of returning with the map, with the logos, with the dialectic is, when you hit the greatest experience, you won't identify with it. In fact, the opposite. Because you have this map, if it's self and other, all I'm experiencing here is all other at once. And now I know its purpose. Its purpose is to have as a single thing. If the dialectic, if understanding is bringing something to the most simple, all of the parts, the duck has a bill, has wings, but you need to unify it as one object. Now it's yours. Now you see it. Now you see through it. Duck or chicken. It's got a beak. It's got little wings. Tweet, tweet, tweet. Got little feeties. But understanding is putting a name on it when you've brought it into a one. One. If our job is to know the self, but the self is not other, or the cause of all experiences, or beyond experience, we've got one thing that's everything all at once, all other as one thing that we can look at and go, wow, my job's super easy. Because while I've experienced maybe many lifetimes of experiencing things that aren't me, because our problems, our reincarnations are to face the problems that follow our ignorance, because that's the cause of our problems. What's our ignorance? To have a false belief about self. That's why you were born in this part of time, in this family, to get this false belief, because it represents something that isn't you, that you think is you. Your mask, your ego, your identity. Our reincarnations are having to face that false identification with self. There is something other to self you've said is yourself and you think is yourself. That's what debate or living a life of ignorance does. The self-fulfilling prophecy, the what else would you call it? Self-fulfilling prophecy, self-sabotage, you're re-entrenching yourself in your ignorance, your false model of yourself, if you're not using the dialectic to remove it. So you might have had many, many lifetimes to experience, I'm not that because this happens. I'm not that because this terrible thing's happened. I'm not this because this terrible thing happens. Or like the story of Jesus and Mark, I'm not this religious figure because I'll end up crucified or whatever. But hang on a second, once you've reached here with this map, you can recognize, hang on a second, I'm experiencing all possible lifetimes, all possible souls, all possible difference, all possible parts, all possible things that are other than myself. So here's the way we can escape the chains or the prison of reincarnation. If we experience this divine luminosity with the map, we'll go, I've saved myself some work because in this one experience has all the difference. So if our life, our reincarnation through this play between wisdom and ignorance is to remove our false identification with self, to free ourselves, to know the self, then here we are experiencing all possible others as one thing. So the divine luminosity, or this cognitive function of of complete ousia, is all other. But it's still caused by self. The one has to cause the many. The same has to generate the difference. The self has to, if the first thing is the self, it has to generate all others. And as we see here, it's an overlap between self and others. It's the reflection of self into others, so you can have this experience of divine luminosity and says, that thing is everything and it ain't me. But it is mind, which is the reflection of self into other. It's the self that exists, but ain't the self. It's all other. So whatever the self is, it's not that, which is everything else. If that's everything all at once, it ain't the self. So you've made your job really, really simple. All possible things that the self can't be, you've got it in one. All you have to do is have developed a questioning state of mind so you don't get addicted or wrapped up or overwhelmed. And this map, or the logos, questions and hypothesis, your Q-sac and your if-sac, states of mind of carrying questions at all times, love and logos in your relationships, and your map of the dialectic and the logos that you've been developing, nurtured into your soul, ingrained into your soul. So once you have this experience, you go, yeah, that's everything that I couldn't be. What next? What a fascinating shadow of the self that it is. It has to be a shadow because it has to be caused by the self. And here you are as self experiencing it. What a fascinating shadow of the self that is. To bring everything that's other than the self into a single picture, a single reflection in the mirror, a single shadow on the sidewalk, the scent of a flower. That's all of experience, and the self ain't experience. You made your job real easy. And that's the transition from the greater into the ultimate. So while we get the Venn diagram from the greater and the lesser of the pairs, because there's an overlap, we have the lesser ignorance, we have the greater in the overlap. everything all at once at the top or hyparxis, and the ultimate, the dimension of reality that transcends that, a whole different kettle of fish, incommensurate. The same way you're completely different from your reflection in the mirror, there's no way your reflection in the mirror can participate in your life. It can't reach out and touch you, it can't share your dreams or have thoughts, it can't participate in all of the higher cognitive functions you are in, but they can't connect. But you can look at your reflection and go, oh, that's not me. Self knowing itself as mind. As everything other that ain't you. With that in mind, we can add some reflection or hypothesis to the question of the text we're in. What about sex? If the idea is to separate from your physical senses to experience mind, and sexuality is one of the highest expression of physical pleasure, wouldn't it be counterproductive? Wouldn't it keep you chained into the ignorance? Hang on a second. Chained to beauty? Chained to pleasure? Well, the greatest experience of beauty, the greatest experience of pleasure is this hyparxis, mind knowing itself. But didn't we say you have the same danger there? If you don't recognize its purpose to reflect the self as other and not to identify it as the most real, you could get stuck here. Does that apply analogically to sexuality? If you think that physical activity of physical connection with beauty and physical pleasure is the most real, tragedy. If you think that's me, tragedy. If you see it as a reflection or expression of self with a purpose to reflect the self, to show what the self isn't, and leading to the highest, remember, a dear team is a lesson to us. Love and logos allows you to have this Aphrodite, highest expression, the principle of beauty itself, as what you both seek. Then you can use sexuality and relationships and intimacy as a force, as an activity, as an exercise to develop your understanding of this map, to practice participating in beauty with your beloved, but also in that participation, keep an open, curious mind, keep your questions about self, keep recognizing what self isn't, keep wondering about what self is, even in the most beautiful experiences, developing an understanding of what that is, what must be the cause of that physical beauty, beautiful soul, beautiful mind. Mind, now you're in level of mind, so that you both can access beauty itself. But because of your training through a true loving relationship, love and logos, if you experience pure bliss, pure beauty, you can recognize it as, wow, that's everything all at once. That's all other, all possible other or difference all at once. Now I have a perfect reflection in the mirror of myself that tells me a lot about what is inherent to myself, but it ain't me. Whatever the self is, it can't be any of that. In fact, what the self is specifically not that. If this is everything other, the hyparxis of all other, then that, in a complete oneness, is everything you're not. So whatever is left over, that's you. While at the same time teaching you a lot about yourself, because this still is an overlap. In other words, there is still that overlap of whole, with parts, one with many. So that's the reflection part. It's still telling you about yourself. I must be some sort of whole. I must be some sort of same. I must be some sort of eternity out of time. But not that kind of whole. Not that kind of same. Not that kind of eternity where it's all at once. Everything in time, out of time. So everything here ain't me, but gives me some understanding about what I am. Just like you look at the mirror, that's not me, but it tells me something, it gives me some bits of things I can understand about me on a different level, a different plane. Does that help us understand sexuality? And the danger? What's the danger of sexuality? To think it's real, or to identify with it, or to ignore its purpose. Those are the three dangers. This is most real, she's the most beautiful thing, and this is the sexiest sexy time. Ain't real yet. It's an interesting reflection. Can tell you something that you can learn from if you reflect in the afterglow of the intimate experience, or even during it if you're really having fun. You can wonder about the nature of reality that's reflected in the beauty of that person and that experience. You can wonder about the self that's having it, that both of you are. You can look for the self that's even more beautiful in the self of your beloved, behind the beauty of her soul, the beauty of her mind, the beauty of her body. There's an even more brilliant beauty that transcends all of those things in herself. That might have been what attracted her to you in the first place, you to her in the first place, or either of those. So long as you are wondering about the true nature of mind that's reflected in physical beauty, you're wondering about the self that's doing all this and is reflected in this way, and you're recognizing the purpose of the activity of engaging with beauty to raise yourself up through love and logos to ultimate reality. But so that's the purpose of the physical, to raise you to mind, and the purpose of mind is to have all at one experience everything you're not, making your job easier. All I've got to do is point to that and say that's not me. Whatever I am ain't that, because it's everything. The danger is fantasy, a false belief about yourself and reality, an ego that you're playing out in your sexuality or your sexual fantasies. If you're fantasizing in the experience, then you're bringing a false belief. You're interpreting, just as we're learning to read without interpretation, kiss without interpretation, make love without interpretation. Experience what's there with that question about reality, about actual self, and about the purpose of your activity to reach both and go beyond to the self. So wonder about reality, self, and the purpose. And keep on strict guard for any fantasy, any daydream, because a fantasy, a daydream, is simply a playing out of something you think is more real than what you're doing. You're doing this activity with your beloved, but you think your fantasy is more real, that you are focused on this. A false belief about reality. So all of your real purpose of this activity to add inspiration and motivation and stimulate energy that you can use to fulfill your purpose, to reach pure beauty and use that to see that's everything that I'm not, so I can go on to know the self. That's the real purpose, love and logos. You're taking all that energy and you're using it to fuel your ignorance, further entrenching you in your problem. That's the difficulty of sexuality. It can be a tool to energize your ignorance, your false belief about self and reality. Because if you're imagining something, you think it's more real than what you're doing. Or, so that's one example of how it's a cause of your problems. The other one is, if you're projecting your beliefs onto her, I want you to do it this way. I want you to do it that way. I want you to wear this maid outfit. Whatever. Now, as an example, you can still have fun in that way so long as you recognize the true purpose. But often relationships are you trying to force the other person to play out your fantasies. So you're projecting your false beliefs about self and reality onto that person instead of using true love and logos together to discover the true nature of beauty in that person, in their body, their soul, their mind, that reflects the true cause of beauty itself, which is mind itself, and then to experience that, even that with a question. That's a good, as Diotima said, that's your starting point for true excellence. Because now you have all at once in the culmination, because this is Diotima, by the way. Levels of physical beauty experiences, and then you upgrade beauty of the soul, different levels, stages in that, beauty of our society, institutions, beauty of sciences, studies, beauty of the mind. So there are stages of development. But when you reach the peak, which is the top of this Venn diagram part here, mind, everything all at once, that's your starting point. Now you can both have a question and develop an understanding with this map about that. Now that's an interesting starting point. So everything the self is, it ain't that. Everything the self can't be, I've got in one package, in one experience. If this is everything all at once and the self ain't everything, this is all experiences all at once and the self ain't an experience, it's its cause. Now I can start the real fun. And what the book is saying is, hey, that movement from this one experience, which takes all of this circle, all of the other, as a whole, so the top of this, everything here, that's wisdom. The section where they don't overlap is ignorance. Those are the two former stages of man. What we are going into is developing this understanding and this map and this questioning state of mind so that we can go through the divine luminosity experience to wonder and know about the self, which is the ultimate. Ultimate. If we have the greater and lesser parts to make a Venn diagram, now we've got greater, lesser, and ultimate. The ultimate state of being, the self. Welcome, Sus. Are you still there? Sorry I took a while to get to your chat. How are you? Happy Thanksgiving. From my strange American... Strange?
I love this guy.
I love this guy. How strange?
Vapid cunt.
Not that strange, I hope.
Gooners.
Sorry.
I'm too pure.
Too pure for those sound drops. Happy Thanksgiving to you. May all your turkeys be roasted and delicious. And may all your cranberry sauce be delicious on your turkeys. And may all your pumpkin pies be delicious for dessert. I had a Thanksgiving meal once. It was the best. It was at a retreat with the author of this book we're reading. Fantastic retreat. It was heaven. Like the best place. We studied dreams for like a week or 2 weeks or something. Imagine that, a place where you could just do philosophy and nothing else for 2 weeks. That was amazing. Is that, where was it? Oh, it's some like special spiritual retreat place that's famous in America. So there are people doing yoga, people doing dance, people doing different meditations, and it was funny because, I mean, it's nice. It was really nice to be at a place where people were interested in spirituality and development and stuff. But it was very funny because in our area of the retreat camp place, there was an actual spiritual person. Not someone who's just guessing. But the irony is, for most people, it's the appearance of spirituality that is attractive. Like even before this stream, I got YouTube sent me a recommendation. There was some philosopher guy. He's got like 100,000 viewers, and he's just some kid speculating about things and really into Christianity somehow. Actually, is there a meaning of life? Well, Judeo-Christian values paint an imperfect idea of God. Like, what are you talking about? Belief? Aren't you a philosopher? No. But very popular. I think because most people haven't really used their understanding to reflect on what exactly understanding is and how understanding and belief are two different things, then I think people think the solution to the meaning of life is just imagination, like just beliefs. And philosophy is just making up, well, it is kind of theorizing, but it's not. I think it's just, you know, meaning is whatever you make it up to be. I think people have an image of a philosopher that reflects, well, their beliefs. Their images of what a philosopher is. Someone like this jabroni says, no, that's the opposite. Literally, it's ignorance. It's opinions. It's keeping you trapped. True philosophy is reading the books that we're reading and wondering and developing questions and learning to use your understanding to reflect on the map of understanding so you can answer those questions well. True philosophy is wondering about these books that kick ass and learning the dialectic as you go. So that you can experience everything all at once. And because of that training, you look at it and go, wow, that's fantastic, and it's not me. Everything that I've experienced can't be me, hasn't been me. Whenever I thought it was me, I had problem, I had disaster, I had tragedy. And now here I am experiencing everything all at once, the most beautiful and blissful experience. Hidden danger. The only danger is if you identify with it, self, or you think it's most real and not. Yeah, you think it's the most real and not a reflection of the most real. You think it's the self and not a reflection or experience of self. So, and because we all have mind, how can you say that meaning of life is just whatever you want it to be? Clearly, it's making use of your mind. And because it's a principle that any activity is perfected when the more that you can reflect and revert on the model, the better a painter can look at his model and make his copy reflect the model, the better the painting. The more you can reflect on Tony Hawk, the better a skater you're going to be. So if we have mind, if that's our highest cognitive function, then our activity of understanding through using mind through time is specifically to revert on the model, perfect our understanding, and make use of those two faculties that make us different from cows, ousia and logos. Self-reflection, mind, and understanding. Language. That's the meaning of life, literally. Can't be anything else. And all the other questions fall in line. What can we take with us? If there's any meaning to life, there has to be something we can take with us, and it can't be physical. What's something non-physical we can take with us? Our mind. Our learning and the nurture of our soul. So not only is this, so that's two reasons why this is the meaning of life. Has to be for there to be any meaning at all that transcends one physical existence, and has to be because we have mind. Here's a third. All human problems can be recognized as the implications or playing out of a false belief. That's an imitation of mind and self. So if you want to solve problems, and all human beings hate suffering, hate injustice, hate being stuck in a problem, there's a third reason the meaning of life is the dialectic, because it's the activity required necessarily to solve your problems. There's three reasons why it's the meaning of life. And all those other things we mentioned, justice, beauty, there's the positives we seek. So if we desire goodness, beauty, justice, all of these things, which we all do, then how do you get that? Well, that's what we've been talking about, diatima. Looking at beautiful things in the different levels, beautiful body, soul, mind, etc. But ultimately going from a manyness of beautiful things, the many, this part down here, to the. If love is seeking beautiful things, well, ultimately it's seeking the beautiful. And the beautiful, the justice that we all seek can only be experienced in the realm of being, because that's where the nouns are. So that's four reasons why the meaning of life is the dialectic. It's the activity to reach the thing we all seek. By the way, it's also the truth. If there's part of our human soul that seeks truth, we don't want to be scammed or duped, then there's a fifth reason. Because this is the experience of truth, and our ignorance or beliefs that are cause of our problems are a false belief about truth. We're deceived. We're suffering from a deception. So if we seek truth, you can only get it through the mastery of the dialectic. 5 reasons why this is the meaning of life. But once we realize the truth of everything, experience that beauty we've been seeking, experience that truth we've been seeking, bring into a oneness, what the 6th reason, hey, don't you want to understand? So the perfection of our activity of understanding is here. I think we've already mentioned that. So experiencing pure, the oneness of understanding, beauty itself, truth itself, oneness of understanding itself. There's that tragedy if you haven't gone through the work of the use of the dialectic to purify your false beliefs about yourself, you'll be blocked from experiencing it. But even when you do reach it, you have to have this map of understanding, because if this is the height of experience, you better have something non-experiential as a map, so you don't get stuck in it the same way people get stuck in other beautiful experiences when they identify themselves with it. That's addiction. It's addiction. Think this is the most real, and or this is me. So you need necessarily some map so that when you experience this hypoxis, everything all at once, you can recognize, I know what that is, I've understood what that is, and you know what? Makes my job easy, because whatever the self is, it ain't that. So that's what, number 7 or 6 or 7 reasons why the dialectic is the meaning of life. It's the necessary map you have to take with you to reach reality, but to go beyond the shadow of self to the self. So 7 reasons why this is the meaning of life, which is why it's so weird to see some philosopher on YouTube with 20,000 views or 200,000 views or something, 200k or something, just speculating about what he believes and speaking about religion. Religion is just belief. It's none of the dialectic. It's the opposite. It acts in opposition to the dialectic. What are you talking about? But I suppose he's so popular because he has the image. Because most people, they think wise people are professors who just pass off their belief as though it's true. Religious people who pass off their belief as though it's true. Their parents, ultimately, who pass off their beliefs as if it's true. So it's funny. It's kind of weird, isn't it weird? Anyway. How do we get onto this guy? I hope you're having a good Thanksgiving as well. Oh yeah, talking about the Thanksgiving in America. California knows how to party. California. In the city. Stop singing. Yeah, so it was funny that here we were with the actual spiritual guru, and no one could see it. These other guys, these guys who wrote a book about some belief that they have about the American Indians being wise, or some belief about something, getting a lot of attention, doing a lot of courses, and here we are in our little house in this retreat place. And I'm like, why isn't everyone banging the door down to get in? It's good for me. I could, have more time in the class. So yeah, that was heaven for me. That was the best. That was the best place for me. To be at a place where we do nothing other than this. And dream analysis. So all this reflection that we've been doing, but applied to dreams. Same thing. Every day. Get up in the morning, do this. Have some breakfast, do this. Have some lunch, do this. Have some afternoon tea, do this. Have some dinner, then do this. And then sleep. Then do it tomorrow. Anyway, amazing. And then in the other times, in the between times when you're having lunch, you get to talk to people about this. For me, it was people were talking about their blocks and their problems. That's fantastic for me. That's the game. That's the dialectic. Ask questions, become curious, share in the wonder about their false beliefs about self and reality. That's the cause of their blocks. And why it's so powerful and addicting, limiting to them, considering it ain't true. And everyone is different. The best goddamn conversations you can have over lunch. Amazing. And for me, that's very rare to have. I don't know a lot of people who are interested in doing the meaning of life, doing what they're here for. Being genuinely curious about the cause of their problems and going through a process of fun reflection, meaningful reflection about its source to free themselves from it and open themselves from participating in excellence, beauty, reality, and self. It's like the best thing to do, but very few people are into it. In fact, we can understand why. This map or model shows that it's our ignorance, or the fake model and fake activity functions in opposition to the use of understanding and knowing. We are acting against our interest. That's the nature of human problems. It's not neutral. It's not just a block. It's an opposition. That's why it's crazy for this philosopher guy on YouTube with his 200k viewers in like a day or something to be talking about belief in the same breath as meaning of life. Belief isn't just wrong, obviously wrong. Like, dear God, have you read the Bible? Fuck me. It's not just obviously wrong, it's in opposition to truth. It's the cognitive function of our suffering, our problems, ignorance. But at this retreat, something about that atmosphere where we're not bombarded by Fox News every day or bombarded by fucking advertising every day. By the way, you think Fox News is bad, you should see the Australian news channels. America exports all their propaganda brainwashing to Australia. It's fucking disgusting. It's so bad. Like, you can like laugh sometimes at Fox News, and I mean, even the left, see, it's not left, the other media companies, they're all the same. Well, not the same. They're also brainwashing and instilling capitalism and fear of other and belief over understanding. But Australia's just balls out. It's so bad. It's like blatantly disgusting. You can't even laugh at it. So we're not bombarded by that. We're not bombarded. We're not forced to, like, you know, sacrifice our time to make capitalists richer and ourselves poorer, which is fucked that we have this system. Because money's relative. If you make $10 and your boss is making $100, at the end of 1 hour, he is $90 richer than you. And money's relative. 1,000 yen isn't the same as $1,000. It depends on who has it. Money's relative to who has it. It's a proportional thing. That's why all this bullshit about you should be rich doesn't make sense. What, I should have lots of money? Oh, then just print more money. No, wealth isn't having more, it's having more than others. So we're not being forced to participate in this sickness that makes everyone poorer. We're not being bombarded by advertising or news propaganda. So I suppose, and we're not worrying about starving because the meals were provided at this retreat. So people were interested in doing the thing they're literally born to do. Use their mind to reflect on the nature of mind and reality, how it causes each physical moment, and how our activity there is to reach mind, love and logos. But with this map, so we don't mistake it for true reality, and we don't mistake it for the self, so we don't get stuck or addicted to it, so we can move on to know the self, which is the cause of everything. It's all self. Or as we've been saying today, it's all aspects. We all have all of these as aspects. We need to move from that, our beliefs, or our, you know, the times when we, like, that we're human, so we will have some beliefs that we might not have removed completely, or some activity that sabotages ourselves or tells us we should do something other than what we're doing on this channel. Just as when we jump out of the plane, there's still electromagnetism, there's still, you know, the I don't know, the principle of friction, there's still the principle of magnetism. It's just that wind resistance is what you're in like 90%. We need to move our attention from the physical to mind, but even move our attention from mind to the self. And you are the self. It's the most immediate, it's the most personal. It's also the cause of everything, and everything else is its reflection. The trick is, where do you direct your attention? That's what the dialectic does. Dialectic, the art of dialectic, the use of wisdom, the use of understanding, is to ask questions to direct your attention to certain specific things that exist, that are there in each moment. Each moment there's the instant. Each moment there's the whole, the map, the model. The instant, this is the model of time that we've been getting from the book. There is the self in the instant that somehow knows the model and generates the now. And there's an emerging and returning from the instant. So it's all aspects. All of this is the self, while they're different stages and different cognitive functions and different dimensions. It's all there. We are directing our attention to the self, and we seem to be able to do that by recognizing everything else that it isn't. If there are no qualities of self, then our learning is to look at all the qualities and recognize it ain't you. So this divine luminosity, or the wisdom experience, is really, really helpful, or its purpose is to have as a oneness all of the others as the top of this. So if our purpose is to know the self by distinguishing it against what it ain't, here is everything it ain't, because here is everything that exists. Bliss, beauty, everything all at once, complete knowingness. So you can see how addictive it could be, or tragic if you think it's real, if you think it's the self. So, double-edged sword. The good edge is it gives you everything other all at once, making it very simple for your quest to know the self, because that's what it ain't. Whatever the self is, literally, it's anything other than that. But the double edge, the negative edge of the sword is it feels most real. It's the greatest experience. It's the most blissful. It's beauty itself. You recognize yourself as eternity. So it can be very easy to get addicted to it or identified to it. It's the addiction of it as your highest good, or the identification with it as yourself or reality. That's the issue. That's addiction. It's your highest good, or it's the truth, so you think it's reality, or you think it's the self. So this kind of one that you experience, the oneness, we want the one self, which is also the good self, which is also the true self. So we want our purpose in all this, going through all this, is to say, hey, this is a oneness. What color? This is a oneness here, or this is a goodness here, or this is the truth of mind here. There must be a cause, the one, the good, the true, but it's one. So it's one thing. Or self and other. That's self experiencing itself as other. So the self that exists and other together, that's the duad. The self existence and other, or difference, together, that's the definition of mind. That's the understanding of the brilliant light of being. Our job, therefore, is to get to the actual self, which is one, good, and true, and is the logos activity inherent in the Usia model, all at one. That's the wondering we've been doing. But along the way, we can have other kinds of onenesses. So kind of one with a beautiful body, kind of one with a beautiful soul, kind of one with a beautiful mind, kind of one with beautiful institutions or studies or sciences or knowledges. And here we have a kind of one that's the greatest kind of one, because it's a oneness of everything. The trick is, or the problem is, if you identify any one of those ones with it being your highest good. Addiction. Spam.
You don't talk to me, you robot. Shut up.
Shut up, robot.
But that's funny. It's like the whole business model is like, hey, we can trick the platforms, and then hopefully we can trick people into thinking that these are real people to further fill the internet with spam and AI slop.
Bad.
You don't talk to me, you robot. Shut up.
Robot, shut up. We say.
Fuck you. Actually,
robot.
fuck you.
Actually.
Just shut the fuck up forever. Just
forever.
shut the fuck up. Just forever.
Just forever. Will you, spammer? So the issue or the tragedy or the danger is, if any one of those ones along the way you identify or you name as or you think as your highest good, what is true. So if you think it's your highest good, then you deserve it. Addiction. It's my highest good. I should do this. Why should I be banned from? Isn't it my freedom? Isn't it the highest good I can reach? It's real. It's true. Or it's me. Because that becomes your model that you seek, that's your ousia, and all of your activity or logos is in seeking. That's the problem. That's addiction. Your activity or logos becomes in service of this kind of one. It becomes your model, or ousia. So your use of reflection and your activity, those two things that we use, ousia and logos, becomes in service of this kind of one because you've identified it as yourself, or you think it's your highest good, or you think it's reality or true. Isn't that fascinating? Thus, the necessity of the map we are building, because only through this map can you recognize the different kinds of onenesses that exist, the different kinds of ousia and logos that exist, the different kinds of goodnesses that exist, so that you can also recognize that all of these three things, you should probably write it cleaner on the board. All of these elements that we have used to identify the tragedy or addiction. What are they? We experience, zoom in a little bit. We experience different kinds spam.
I'm a human. I don't listen to robots.
Don't listen to robots.
Whore.
We experience different kinds of ones in life. Now, ultimately, we seek beautiful kinds of ones or onenesses. And also, we want them to be just. Different kinds of ones. The problem or danger is when you take any one of those ones and you say, you take any one and believe and think it's myself, identify, I am a Jew. All of these people killing Palestinians, that's me. I can't not kill a Palestinian. I'm a Israeli Jew. That's what I do. That's me. I don't say Jew. I have a hypothesis that this Jewish way of explaining the nature of the divine is one hypothesis that seems to make sense through a dialectic, along with this other dialectic that I've been carrying from my reading, along with, no, screw everything else. I'm this. I am a racist. I am a Mormon. Our addiction. We think it's our highest good, so therefore we deserve it. Or we think it's true or real. It's reality. That's what I'm seeking. If you do that, then as a result, your ousia, reflection, and model for what you're seeking in life, and your logos, reasoning, and activity becomes focused on that model, in service of that model, to reach that model. That's the danger. All of this is how you understand addiction. Addiction. The irony is, in this kind of like actual meaning of life, but having the model of understanding, of mind. We need this model, the map, different color, this one. The map of mind, or logos, shows us that the one we actually are seeking is all of these terms above this line. Isn't it fascinating to understand the nature of addiction, or the problems or tragedies we face with different experiences of things, ones? But the real thing we seek is the self that's one, good, true, or the one self, the good self, the true self. The one, good, true self that's also ousia and logos as a pure one. Pure one without qualities. Without parts or qualities as we normally use to them. Maybe qualities is not the right word. Without parts. The actual one we're seeking is anything without parts or not other. All of the experiences we have along the way in this development from ignorance into wisdom and then beyond, by needing the map, requires the map, because all of the different kinds of ones, you could have an addiction, you could get stuck, you could get trapped. If you take any one of those ones and you think, well, that's me, now I'm stuck in my ignorance. I'm addicted to my ignorance. I am a racist, that's who I am. And I'll fight you if you challenge me. I am a Christian. I'm going to kill all the non-Christians. Jesus said so. My minister told me. It's not just a belief, it's I am a Christian. Or you think it's your highest good. Yeah, I get to be wealthy and murder all the Palestinians and have all their land because it's good to do so. This kind of one. Dominating other people, murdering other people. Or you think it's real. So any of the ones, especially the most beautiful or imitations of beauty along the way, especially for believers or sadists, if you take any one of the ones or experiences that you've had along the way, every experience is a one. Kinds of ones or experiences. All of the ones or experiences along the way can be a problem or an addiction if you think it's yourself, if you think it's good, and therefore you deserve it, or you think it's real, and then it's obvious that you should have it because it's real. Therefore, you make use of your ousia or reflection and your reasoning or activity to hit that as your model. That's your life. This becomes your model and your use of self-reflection, your ousia. This becomes your activity to reach that model and your use of reasoning or logos. That's why logos and ousia is needed, because it's both together. Ousia is your model and it's how you reflect. Logos is your activity, but also it's reasoning. It's two. But here's the thing, the irony being, with this map, it shows you, hang on a second, your purpose is to reach this because it's all experiences. It's all other. And then recognize it's not the self. What the self is this, which is not a oneness, it's the one. It's not a goodness, it's the good. It's not truth, it's true. And it's also not other, it's self. And its model and activity therefore have to be a one. They can't be different things, because that would be a many. So all of these terms used to describe addiction come together in their purest forms as a one. Isn't that interesting? Like, as an addiction, you can have any kind of one or experience and think, oh, that's good. Now my ousia and logos becomes opponent. Or different person says, oh no, it's not good. It's just real. Just what is. Common sense, bro. Now ousia and logos becomes about it. It's good. So all these different things, but we want them all together. So it's a one, good, true are all words to describe the self. Ousia and logos as a pure one, without parts or not other and not experience. So all of the experience, all the experiences can't be. Can't be. So that can happen at any stage along the way. Addicted to whatever belief about self, whatever good thing that you think, whatever beautiful thing, whatever thing that seems real, whatever person putting you down that seems true. But we want one good true self altogether, which is why you need the map. So at any stage along the human journey from ignorance to wisdom, you could have a tragedy if you identify self, one, good, or not one, because it is a kind of one. You identify that one or experience with good or true or self. You want the one that is the true, the good, the self. That's the issue. So any experience along the way is a message to self, say, not it, like that thing that kids play, not it. Any experience, not it. Why? Because an experience is a oneness. Oh, and we're after the one. Oh. Not it, not it, not it. The trick is, at that divine luminosity, it's the greatest possible. If anything is going to be convincing as real, as good, is oneness of everything. So oneness is the last kind of one before the one. That is the actual true, that is actual good, that is the actual self. So don't take oneness, the greatest oneness, as self or good or true. It's goodness, it's truth, and it's the image or reflection of self. That's the double-edged sword. But in our training as human beings to solve our human problems, ignorance, and perfect our wisdom, we've been practicing it all along. Everything is not it. Not it for self, not it for self, not it for self, not it for true, not it for good. To the point where when we do finally reach brilliant light of being, even that we can say not it and have a real question, keep that question, ponder that question about the true self. That's without qualities. Hey, but remember, these are all aspects. So whether you're addicted to a really, really shadow kind of oneness, really, really shallow kind of beauty or oneness, or shallow kind of experience, or whether you're addicted to the highest possible experience of wisdom, there's always self there. There's still a self experiencing it. There's still a mind recognizing it. So all of these things are always present. They're just at different degrees or aspects that you are focused on. It's what you're looking at. That's me. Like a video game, where you can be the the individual soldier, or you can be the boss, or you can be the guy you can be like the general who's making the buildings. I don't know if those games exist. You can go to the small parts, or you can be the person planting the buildings. I want a barracks here. I want a town hall here. Or you can become a peon if you want to do a peon, whatever. It's like that. But what you focus on is what you think is the you part. You think is the self part. And it's good to focus on that. And it's real or true. That's the map. To point to, hey, whatever you point to as an experience ain't the good or the real or the true kind of one. It's not the self. But it's still there. That's why we're always on a hunt. Or that's why the hunt can finish at any time. Because there are aspects. And that falling out of the plane thing is an example. Or if you've experienced divine luminosity, that's an example as well. Because that's, while falling out of a plane is you're experiencing all of the physical forces, because all of the physical laws of reality are always all the time. But you're just really noticing wind resistance, or really noticing gravity because you're falling out of a plane. Whereas if you stick your finger into a light socket, you still got wind resistance, you still got gravity, but you're really experiencing electromagnetism. Because they're all aspects. You can't not experience gravity. There's still something keeping you down, but you're super focused on electromagnetism right there. Now, the brilliant light of being, or wisdom, is the greatest example of that, because it's literally defined by all qualities. So our job is, whether we're sticking our finger in a light socket, whether we're with a beautiful person, or whether we're jumping out of a plane, can we see the self that's there? It might be quieter. While you've got your finger in a light socket, can you still pay attention to gravity? Like that, except it's not This example falls down because there's no inherent super meaning of gravity. We want the super meaning of self. So even in any of those experiences, can you wonder about the self? That's Xenophanes' lesson to us. The first written philosopher in this tradition, the teacher of Parmenides, who gave us the dialectic, said, hey, the one self, the whole that's not without, the whole without parts, that's the pure one, it's seeing, hearing, thinking right now. It's an aspect. You can jump into you can be a believer, but when you're praising Kumbaya to Jeebus, you can, hang on, what's doing it? You can carry Xenophanes' question at every moment because it's an aspect that's always present. The trick is to direct your attention to it because you recognize it as more real. But how the fuck are you going to pay attention to something without qualities as more real when what seems to be more real is more brilliant or shiny or beautiful or blissful or pleasurable? Why would you pay attention to attention itself without qualities if it's not? That's why you need the map. Every step of the way, you think whatever aspect you're paying attention to is most real. So whether you write down the bottom, a materialist saying, oh, I'm not doing this philosophy, I'm a practical person, it's all woo-woo or foo-foo or whatever. Because you think that's real. The image of your parent that, as you feel so confident shitting on people, you think that your parent doing that to you is real because you haven't reflected on where you got this belief from. Whether you're singing Kumbaya to Jeebus or Joseph Smith or whoever, you think that's most real. So you're putting your attention on that quality that's present. If you're a more reflective or intelligent person, you are interested in understanding. You're putting your attention on understanding causes and principles to solve problems or create excellence. You're understanding. You think it's better. And it becomes a cumulative process because the more intelligent you are, the more you recognize that good people are understanders. And bad people are addicted to beliefs right down the bottom, rejecting models. Rejecting models, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi. Or insisting on bullshit models, the right-wingers, fascists, Nazis, sexists. But the good people are using understanding. So the more you use understanding to understand what's good, the more you get into understanding. And you realize, hang on a second, I can understand that things are perfected by reflecting on the model. Now I can use my understanding to perfect understanding itself. But even these guys use understanding in a shitty way. They're just not focused on the understanding part. And as good people recognize the other good people and they become more good, they become more beautiful and excellent, the more they do understanding, they'll focus on that understanding aspect of their consciousness, which will give more power to it, which will give more energy to it, which will allow it to develop. And that's the problem with sexuality. Whatever you're doing sexually, you're putting your attention on because it feels most real or good or beautiful or pleasurable. So you better make sure that whatever you're doing, it's not a fantasy or a false identification with self, good, or true. In other words, use that relationship and those experiences to direct your attention to what is real or true. That could be understanding, that could be mind, or really the self that's even experiencing that. And that's why you need the model. That's why you need the map. Because there's no experience of self. So unless you have this map of understanding, you won't recognize what is the actual self, one true good. Because it ain't an experience. It ain't a oneness. But through understanding of principles and causes, you can understand that for there to be a oneness, there has to be a principle of one as its cause. A oneness, a unity of parts, that's this model here. This is the map. Oneness means there is a many and a one overlapping into a oneness, which means there has to be a higher, more real principle that is without a manyness, and that's the self, because this self and other applies to this Venn diagram as well. So you need the map. Carry the map in whatever you do, necessarily, so that any oneness you see as, oh, it's a shadow, it's pointing back to the self. But in every experience, you can look for the self there. And that's what we got in the text. Socrates said to Jesus, hey, even in that divine luminosity, the greatest possible beauty, the greatest possible oneness, you can see the presence of something even more brilliant. The experience of divine luminosity is the brilliant light of being, but it must have a cause. The cause of that luminosity must be greater and more profound. That's God, the self or the one. Okay. Presence. We just read something where he said, can you see a presence? Okay. It's right where we are at the end. Even in the divine luminosity, the good of the one is no longer conceived of something as remote and transcendent, but near and essential to us. It's an aspect that we're in at all times. It's a matter of putting your attention to it. And you won't know to put your attention to that without this map. And you won't have the map without understanding. That's why understanding is the key to everything. Phila Dianoia, love of understanding. Here we go. The power of Usia brings us to reflect and turn about, and that begins the awakening of the inner life of philosophy. The good, or the one, remember, associating the good to anything other than the one is an addiction, is no longer conceived as remote and transcendent, but near and most essential to us. Everywhere we reach out to experience, we discriminate a oneness of this or that. One stuffy for me to reach out and grab it. Without this ability, there'd be no intellectual life and no reflection. So you ask, what shall we say of it? The one shows itself in everything. As we reach out to experience, so do because we think it's good. So this one/good self is in everything we do. Only what we do is a lesser version. The oneness of the stuffy. It's good because it's squishy. We want the one self that is good because it's one and good, and it's the one good. It's the good. The good, or which we also call the one, here we go. They're defined together. The one, which is also the good, so put that in pink, is part and parcel of all we experience. Everything we experience is a version or a shadow or reflection of one and good, leading us. So that's the purpose. We got to remember, whatever you do, love and logos. Wonder about the truth of self and reality and the purpose of what you're doing to point back to it. The one and the good is part and parcel of everything we experience, and it's all we experience. And through the power of Usia, put croissants on the menu, use the word in your thinking, we realize we are not strangers to the divine. By the intelligence that functions in and through the gap between each moment, there appears the moment and the instantaneous event. It is this that you have spoken of many times. It emerges from the gap, so it surrounds whatever is. Yet it itself is not in time, so it's a kind of timeless. Different from eternity, which is all of time in a timeless way. It's timeless without touching. It's the top part of the Venn diagram. From its prior pure state, it has entered the world, and it is the very substance of our growth and change in all things. So the self is in the gap, surrounds everything, but it's also the substance of everything. Isn't that weird? The one and the good. And it's everything we do. We seek one, we do it because it's good. We have to see a one stuffy. So here we go. This is the quote we're after. This candidate of yours said that God dwells invisibly by his own excessive brilliance in the divine luminosity. And only those that are worthy can come to know and see God through that divine luminosity. So as they were talking about there, these two dudes, everything we do, even in the physical world, requires one and good. It's good to do that thing, and we have to see one stuffy to grab it. But to become worthy is to see that the principle is in everything, invisibly, because it's excessively brilliant. So that as we increase our activities, or our activities improve till it becomes using our understanding to reflect on the map or model of understanding, which is a preparation to experience it in this divine luminosity experience, as you have become worthy by not identifying the one or good in anything but invisibly there, that's your preparation, so that in the greatest experience of all other, the top of this otherness circle, you see that actual God is in there, actual you, actual self is there invisibly. Even more brilliant than divine luminosity. Don't think that's the self. Don't think that's the highest good. Don't think that's the most real if it's not the one that's without qualities. That's the worthiness. That's the necessity of understanding. That's the significance of the map that allows you to go through that and see that even in that experience, there's an aspect, even when you put your finger in the light switch, there's still gravity. Even though you're experiencing electromagnetism and it feels very real right now because you're being electrocuted, there's still gravity. Only the gravity that we're looking for is greater than all other principles. So we're using that to talk about how it's an aspect that's present. Look for the self, and that's making the transcendent immediate in each moment. Each moment you have the capacity to see the self. It's just without qualities. That's the rub. Can you look for that which is out without qualities? And you, by the way, you can't reach out for it unless you think it's good to do so, as we just read. So you need to see this oneness of a stuffy to grab it, to reach it. But before you reach it, you have to determine it's good to do so. The kind of one we seek, we have to realize it's good to do so. So if you are being brainwashed by belief or materialism, you won't reach the oneness of all onenesses. Which is ironic, because why would you not want to reach that? Because you don't think it's good to do so. You've been told it's the devil or some bullshit. Or woo-woo if you're a materialist. So we have to recognize the kind of one that's the most good is even more good than divine luminosity or bliss. Otherwise, we won't reach out for that which is without qualities in that experience. But here's the rub. It's in every experience. There is still you experiencing it. You just don't put your attention to pure attention because there's no qualities that would say, oh, that's most good to do so. It's not a shiny shape or color. It's not a knowingness. It's a kind of knowingness. But that's the map. That's the necessity for having the map. So that you do reach out for a pure one without qualities. But you won't be able to recognize that self without the map. If it's just based on experience. And that's what we're doing here. Becoming worthy to reach out for the real one that's really good and true. The self. By beginning to reach out for the greatest oneness, that's the greatest reflection of one and good, the model of understanding. Because that will allow us to perfect our understanding and perfect this map, so that we can use that understanding to recognize even that model that helped give us our goodness requires a good to reach out for. That's the worthiness, to see the significance of this divine luminosity as the map for understanding and having everything all at once, the map for everything, existence and perception and understanding. But also to recognize that inherent in that there is something even more brilliant. It's just harder to see because it's not as shiny. Put your attention on that. What is that self that's even experiencing that? Isn't that amazing? And hey, by the way, having that experience of divine luminosity, because you've seen the significance of the map of understanding, the model of understanding, makes it easy. Well, makes it hard because it's blissful and therefore it's very easy to get identified or addicted to it. But easy in the other sense because now it's everything. Now it's just one thing that you have to see the self inherently in. It's one thing that you have to recognize ain't you, because it's everything as one. Isn't that cool? beginning of the next stage of a loving relationship, says Diotima. That oneness is where you reach in your loving relationship. And now it's the movement from that to the actual reaching out for the actual good. That is the self. That is the giving birth that happens in that loving relationship. Not to children. You give birth to true excellence. Going through that divine luminosity to the self. Pretty neat? I think so. How are we for time? All right, so let's read a little bit more because we want to take everything we've just reflected on, and we took a lot of time to do it because it was worth doing and fun. Let's see if we can use this reflection on what we've been reading to make sense of the sexy time argument. Because Jesus got his claws out a bit, had a go at Socrates. Hey, you've been saying about we need to not get addicted to or not get stuck in or not identify as the good and real physical experiences, but you know what's a pleasurable experience that's physical? Sexual intimacy. But you had kids. So how do you're a bit of a liar. You're a bit of a scammer, aren't you, Sock? And Jesus is saying,
You have the brain of a child if you think that.
You might have a brain of a child.
I think it's so awesome.
Wait.
And I find that very entertaining.
So we're entertained by the drama that's happening. But let's take this reflection to see if we can see it in a clearer way. All right, so we have this map that can connect us from the physical, the adjectives, to mind, the nouns, which allows us to perfect our highest cognitive function, understanding, which brings about our excellence and our human functioning. But now we're going from the mind, from the physical to the mind to the self, the next model up. And that's what Socrates identified as the next stage of man. Humanity or man reflecting on himself as God, whose functioning is in the realm of man. So still connected physical to mind, but now from mind to self. We need the word the. So we're saying. This is where we stopped last time. Let's pick it up here. The Hebrew language does not have this term the. Good heavens, that must mean such a language would have great difficulty fully comprehending our Hellenic philosophy. If you can't express it, you can't think it. You have to use the word croissant, otherwise you can't order it from the menu. If you can't express it, you can't think it. You need the word, the name. This would tend to make people more concrete or focused on the moment. One sec. One sec. No, we're good. Just wanted to check if something was online, but it's not today. It's okay. If you can't express it, you can't think it. This would tend to make people more concrete or focused on the moment, rather than explore the source of all sources. Two levels, right? Physical to its source, mind, the noun, the, but even the source of that. Beauty itself, justice itself, wholeness itself, to self not as an adjective to describe mind, but the self. That's the principle that we've been talking about today. Self is used as an adjective here to define everything, self, beauty, self, whole. It's the adjective to describe this oneness, but it's still an adjective. So from adjectives to nouns, and from nouns to its adjective. So from the many adjectives to the many nouns, and from the one adjective used to describe all those nouns, self. From the one adjective to the one noun, or the source of all sources. Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? Making these connections from this map. It's reading something new, making a new connection. From many to one. Hey, many adjectives to the one noun, or the many. We start with the many beautiful things to the one beautiful. The many just things to the one justice. But we could express that differently to the many adjectives to the many nouns. But now we've got many nouns, we've got one adjective for each of those nouns to the one adjective, the many adjectives to the one adjective, and the one adjective to the one noun. So, I think it's neat.
Making ice cream is a good and courageous thing.
But I want to be clear, I'm not
You have severe mental illness, and you need to be fucking checked into an insane asylum.
If you think you're not AI and you live on my soundboard, you need to go be checked into an insane asylum. Focus on the moment, the physical, and not reach the source of all sources. The result would focus people's interest in doing particular things, becoming more concrete in their thinking, and through this avoidance miss out on the power of language for reflection. The power of language, its real use, reflection. The power of logos for ousia, my friend. It just might account for the hostility some people experience from others when they seek to go beyond the concrete view of reality. Their entry into Hellenic thought would be handicapped without the study of Greek. So, our job is to go from the physical to mind, and from mind to its source. Double jump, like in Mario, you do a jump and a double jump to get even higher. But as we've recognized, the functioning of the materialist view, belief and materialism, isn't neutral, it's in opposition, thus the hostility, thus the barbarism, thus the addiction. So anyone saying, hey, by the way, understanding's a win-win, and your purpose of language is for ousia, or to reflect on mind, the nouns, and even that to its source. So it's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
But we receive hostility from people because they're stuck in their concrete view on particular things, in part because they don't use the word the, and some cultures don't even have a word for it. Handicapped. Or castrated, we would say, maybe. Handicapped without the study of Greek. True, but I use parables, says Jesus. But the use of parables would awaken the mind to turn upon itself. It would turn them about and bring them to wonder, and they would enter into that silence, out of which wonder creates the passage to more profound states of mind. Notice dialectic asks you a question and gives you time and space to wonder and reflect, and it's out of that silence and wonder that we have a passage to higher states of mind. You know what doesn't do that? Every goddamn motherfucking journalist, every TV show, every fucking debate where it's people yelling over each other to try and fucking win. And they win not by telling the truth, but by silencing any objection. That's fascism. These people who are loud on TV arguing, they're not winning by having a coherent argument. They're silencing objections by fucking bullying. I'm the person in charge and I've given you 1 minute to say your piece. That's literally what Netanyahu is doing. Not winning by providing a coherent argument about what is the genuine universal good, but by fucking silencing anyone who speaks up, killing journalists, killing Palestinians. Debate. That's debate. What we are talking about is using the language for self-reflection, to ask questions that give you time and encourage reflection. Participate in that silence, and that silence and wonder can generate high states of mind. That's the art that we're here to master. That's the art. One art. So therefore, reason 8, why the dialectic is the meaning of life. Hope you'll be making a list today. Yes, and equally through language that contain this gift of the, it would make the passage to philosophy and our theology much easier to enter into, wouldn't it? I wonder what language has the greatest power to represent most fairly our theology and philosophy. The well-known inherent difficulties of shortcomings of Hebrew exclude it from this kind of philosophy. Wah wah. Without the word the, they are out. Without the word croissant, you can't order the delicious pastry. You're out. Don't worry, add it. Change your language. Learn a different language even if you have to. A perfect language! With a perfect language expressing the purest and most complete philosophy, you would have secured a way to express one's most profound thoughts, which we have been doing together today. We started with this, and then we talked about the nature of addiction. And the danger of even addiction to wisdom. And how inherent to understanding addiction is a misuse of these higher terms. But having a language that also includes logos and ousia, we can bring them all together, because the true goal is to seek the source, or the one that we're actually seeking is not an experience, not other, not parts, but one good, true self that's ousia and logos as a pure one. See, that's the fun of having a language which has these terms, but also the necessity. Okay, with the realization of the integrity of the cosmos, that man, there is a hope that if we realize there is an integrity to our cosmos, so realizing the logos, man will become more rational and open to the more significant aspects of philosophical life. Yes, we can hope that. Cave dwellers, as we call them, people stuck in the physical world, haven't made either of the jumps or the double jump. They are victims of having learned false beliefs about self and reality. They are guardians of those beliefs and loyal to those who transmitted that pseudo-learning. Without philosophical goals, they seek power, money, and empty pleasure. Hang on, says Jesus, getting out the claws.
Fucking bitch, pussy ass fucker.
Jesus says, hey, listen, your followers have a feud with the body. They devote much worry and effort to overcome the desires of the body, and among those desires, the uppermost is sexual experience. You contribute to this problem because you teach one thing and live another. As you have said, you fathered a child when you were over 70 years old. What do you make of this? I could add that some who seek the spiritual life flee to monasteries and hermitages. But you have gone into those very things. Sexuality. You have gained a distinction as a soldier in military campaigns. You're a big buff dude. Super strong and tough. I also heard you drank others under the table and went home after a drinking banquet as if you had never even had one drink yourself. Ooh, how do you do all this? Are you not different from... That's the symposium, by the way, where we learnt love and logos from Dear Team. The drinking party. This is what symposium means. Drinking party. Literally everyone combed. They got plastered and they all combed, and Socrates just went home and went about his day as though he hadn't had anything to drink. What do you make of this difference? When whatever is done, Jesus, is done with the mind's awareness of what it is that is being done, then the mind is free of any imposition of any fantasy.
Oh boy, that is a little weird.
A soul doesn't desire because it desires. Rather, it desires only if it fits into what is thought to be good and real. You desire if only that which fits into what you have thought, what is thought to be good and real. I was using the word real and true together earlier. But it was often mistaken about what its good is. When the mind is occupied with some illusion, when it does what it does, then the fantasy uses, as it were, the immediacy and the power of the act to enliven the fantasy. Like debates, yelling at each other to entrench each other in your own fucking stupid ignorance. War, same thing. The immediacy and the power of the action to entrench ourselves in our ignorance and injustice. And anything we do, including sexuality. If it's using the act to play out your fantasies, you're adding the immediacy and power of the act to enliven that projection of your false beliefs. That's the cause of your ignorance, suffering, and block. If the mind is occupied with some illusion when it does what it does, then the consequences will end up as a disaster.
Just shut the fuck up forever. Just shut the fuck up. Just forever.
They're completely lying. Completely lying.
And I find that very entertaining. I'm a human. I don't listen to robots.
No coherence to those sound drops. Makes me laugh though. Disaster. If we're occupied, so where are we putting our attention? We talked about trying to rest your attention in that which is without qualities, even in divine luminosity, but this is even one step removed from that. You're adding something to put your attention to. You're creating a fantasy and adding your attention, putting your attention on that, and using your activity to enliven that. Uh-oh. If the mind is occupied with some illusion when it does what it does, then the consequences will end up as a disaster. Thus, there is nothing that brings greater harm than if one is mistaken to be what is true and real. So, we have been talking about those fancy terms. One, good, true, needed for oneness. As the leader of those duad members of that set, goodness, leader of those monads, justice, excellence, beauty, and true for truth, which is the leader of the triad, lesser, greater, ultimate. And saying, hey, addiction is when you have a kind of one that's not the pure one of the self, and you identify good and true to that. You think it's real or true, so it's worth pursuing. You'll think it's your good, so you shouldn't have it. And we've added the word self in as well when you identify, oh, that's me. And so I was adding true and real together, and thankfully it's in the book. So it's a win for us.
Win.
I love this guy.
You love this guy in this book. Mistaken about what kind of a one or experience or oneness is what's true and real. It is not what is done that is significant, but what state of mind accompanies whatever is done, whether it being a war hero, or drinking all of the beers, or having lots of sexy times. Naturally, what is done should also conform with one's ideals and not one's fantasy, so it also applies to your choice of activities. So your choice of goals and your state of mind when you're carrying them out is significant. And the issue comes when you are mistaken about what's real and true. And that's what fantasies are. So you drink and make love with a pure mind that is free of any imposition of false images. Wow. Pure mind, no images. Worth practicing. Could be fun. But that doesn't make it ideal, does it? What can be worse than to entertain thoughts one believes true and feels justified in acting them out without realizing that they are completely mistaken about the truth of what they believe? Again, you are right about that. To do what one does with a pure mind must include that the very doing must fit nicely within what is your highest sense of being right and being just. Surely, it is likely that without that sense of justice of one's acts and the recognition that it is consistent, surely it is likely that without that sense of justice of one's acts and the recognition that is consistent with one's philosophical goals, that one is harboring a false belief about what is real and true. So, your sense of right and justice is an indication. If you don't feel that, it's a clue, it's a red flag. It's a clue that you're carrying something false about what is real and true. Use it as a clue to unpack the mystery you're here to solve. Many believe that their fantasy life is their own creation, but they fail to recognize the self-image within the fantasy is a manifestation of a false identification.
Just for a whore.
So, we reach out for what we consider good. To be mistaken about what that good is, is a danger. Our fantasies we think are real and true. To be mistaken about what's real and true is a danger. Your fantasies that you play out, you think you're just making them up yourself, but you fail to recognize that there is a lead character that begins the fantasy. That's yourself. So you have some oneness or experience that you are mistakenly thinking is a reflection of yourself, or yourself plays out in that fantasy. You think that experience or that fantasy or that activity is good, or you think it's real or true. But having a sense of whether or not whatever you're doing is right and just, if you don't recognize that, if it's absent, then you are carrying a false image of yourself or a false belief about what's good or what's real or true. You're identifying it with a false one, a false image, false experience. So our feeling of justice, which is also connected to being in that flow state we've been talking about, is an indication. Pretty neat? I think so. Many believe their fantasy life is their own creation, that they fail to recognize the self-image within that fantasy is a manifestation of a false identification. Yes, says Jesus. And if one has been persuaded and encouraged to believe in such a false idea of the self or reality, then they are doomed to being irrelevant. You won't make a mark on the world, but most importantly on yourself and your reincarnation and your growth. Everyone has been persuaded and encouraged to believe a false idea of the self. We are all victims. Where is it? We're all victims of a delusion of being conned, but we become fiercely loyal to that delusion and the people who conned us. A bit back anyway. So, can't settle for mediocrity. Aim for your highest good, aim for the highest truth. If you don't, you're accepting something less real, less good, and less yourself. Aim for the highest one, which is the most good and the most real. So the one, good, true, and self. Those are the 4 key words. And your indicator is justice. So if you don't seek justice and you want to be in that state of justice, your pure state of mind and functioning in that activity and your choice of the activity itself, you need that excellence or justice there. And if it's not present, then it's just a message that you are carrying something false. You've been deceived. Get rid of that, and you can be even have more fun. You can be doing better. Because you've been tricked. You've been conned. You've been grifted to. It's not a moral thing. It's just a part of being human. So you need to have that standard of excellence and justice in what you do. Otherwise, you're doomed to being irrelevant and you'll be stuck in your problems. I have often stressed to those about me that to be ignorant about what's real and true is what everyone hates and fears. Oh, we don't even want to be conned. There is nothing more important than having truth as a companion to one's idea of reality. The inner connection between what is considered good, the desire for it, and the quest for it is important to see clearly. I have often called it the inner triad. The inner triad of truth, reality, and good. What we have been using as the triad is the one, the good and true. But one fits because reality is a oneness mind, or the one. So there's the ultimate reality is the one, and we want to make sure that the reality we seek is the true and the good, the self. And the trick is it's without qualities, so you need the map. That was good, says Jesus. Interesting comparison you have here. Mankind imitates creation in his own inner world. However, when it takes on the form of the daydream, then, if I may say so, all hell breaks loose. Ha 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 ha. Get it? Because it's Jesus. Our imitation of creation to create our fantasies, but not based on the truth of self and reality, but based on our false image that we've been duped into, is a kind of creation. And if we do it, all hell breaks loose. Because it's Jesus. Very funny stuff. You know, of course, that many say your kind of philosophy is nothing other than entering and staying in a world of fantasy. To them we say,
Calm your fucking tits.
calm your tits. Yes, the many do hurl that charge against us. They forget the difference between having calm tits and having angry tits. They forget the difference between fantasy and philosophical speculation. And that's actually what I was thinking about earlier, because when we're talking about the dude on the YouTube who got all the clicks for being a philosopher, when he was just imagining the meaning of life and imagining weird beliefs about Christianity and stuff, I was saying, you know, people think that's philosophy, just imagination. Just making whatever. Oh, I imagine this could be God or this could be God. Meanwhile, the fascists are blowing up the world. Meanwhile, you're living out your life and you're dying and you're going to have to suffer your reincarnation. Meanwhile, you're still playing out your all hell breaking loose. You're still doing just or unjust thing. But I was like, it's not completely wrong that philosophy is imagination, because we do require our imagination to hypothesize, to create analogies, to create the map of where we haven't yet gone, but based on understanding. The difference is what he was doing is just fantasy, just telling stories about whatever beliefs that he was raised into, because he hasn't done midwifery, he hasn't done the dialectic. But people think that's philosophy. So I was kind of in two minds about the idea of imagination. But so thankfully we got this book that bangs so goddamn much. The difference between fantasy imagination and philosophical speculation. Hypothesizing. Creating a model of the spiritual dimensions that we have yet to move into. Or that we can remember anyway. So imagination is part of it, but not just fantasizing or projecting your beliefs. But get your views.
You're going around doing that in the weirdo. I'm going to get you. I'm going to find you.
Find you.
And I'm going to get you.
I'm going to get you.
Gooners.
Because they're gooners.
I'm a real living being.
But we're a real living being.
Would you just blow in from Stupid Town?
And he blew in from Stupid Town. Silly.
You're
Silly.
a baby. You're a little baby.
You're a little baby. In fantasy, there is a false image of this. There we go. That's the difference maker. In fantasy, there is a false image of the self. And its drama has no correspondence with the way to truth of the meditation of the philosopher. So there's a drama attached to your false image of yourself, which is of course nothing other than a message about the ignorance you're here to solve and purify through the midwifery use of the dialectic. But the true use of imagination is meditation, based on your understanding and your development of understanding of the truth and the use of understanding through the dialectic to focus and imagine and understand. That's meditation. The speculations of philosophy lead to an understanding and experience. That's the difference. The way we imagine uses the logos, uses the dialectic. So we end up with understanding. But also, because it's real and true what we're speculating on, it's also a meditation facilitating the direct experience. Understanding and knowing, dianoia and nous, logos and ousia, activity and model, parts and whole. See? Pretty neat. The speculations of philosophy lead to an understanding and experience of the true self. That's the true self we're after. And that does not contain any element of the life of fantasy. So the daydream and your kind of speculation both have a triadic structure. one good true, or real good true. I had wondered if you were going to talk about the triad for all creation. The procession from the one, that which remains, and the return that all creation is said to be a part of. I hadn't heard much about it from you. So now that we have this map of our real purpose, the true meaning of life, and the many, many reasons why it's the case, to go from the physical world into mind, or from adjectives to nouns, which is a kind of speculation or imagination with logos, with questions and understanding, which is a kind of meditation which facilitates the perfection of your understanding and the experience of the model. And then the movement from the mind to the self, which requires us recognizing that which is without qualities, without parts, without manyness, without difference, is true and good. So we reach out for that kind of one, that's a pure one, and that's the self. Anything else is a false identification with self, the cause of our ignorance and suffering, or a false identification with what's real, true, or good, which is a kind of addiction, again, leading to nothing but hell on earth or disaster. Pretty neat. And now all of our activities we can do with the pure mind. We can look for the one and good and true in everything we do, because the self is still doing it. Because the self is what is experiencing all of the experience and thoughts. So look for the self. With a pure mind, do what you're doing. Make sure that your choice of activity or goals reflect your highest excellence, or this model. And the way that you do it is with a pure mind, with an attention on mind itself, or the pure attention of self, pure qualityless nature of self. And your indicator is a sense of fairness and justice. Justice and a sense of being right and being just, a sense of justice in one's acts. Being right and being just, yeah. So right, just, fair. That sense of fairness or rightness or justice will be an indicator that you're doing the right thing, or you're harboring a false image. And that's the nature of problems and or addictions, and what we are supposed to do, so that in anything we do, we can keep an eye on the self by reaching for it, because it's the most real or true and good. The self. And any activity we can do can be in service of that. Whether we be drinking or making love or whatever it is we're doing, so long as it's in service of reaching the pure state of being, of mind, and in that experience of everything all at once, looking at it and going, wow, that's neat. All of that is everything, ain't me. What next? Let's reach for that. Now, that's interesting, because now Jesus is saying, okay, if that's the case then, that this pure one that is the self is our goal, but it's also the highest dimension, so we can have the realm of self, the realm of being, and the realm of becoming, and it's the highest dimension that's the cause of the others. Can you talk about how it's the cause? If everything precedes one, but hang on, it has to, if it's always the self, how is that which remains the self? And how is it that all life is seeking to return back to it? Can you talk about, so far we've been talking about our journey from the physical to mind and then to the self, and what's required and the dangers along the way, and how we can do everything in that pure state of mind, seeking pure justice and excellence with an eye on the self and mind, so we can have excellence in all we do. So all we've been talking about so far is the map to return, to become Lord of the Rings, to become whatever, Jedi. But Jesus is like, okay, now turn it around. All of the work has been how we reach our highest goal. Jesus says, turn it around. Can you talk about how it unfolded? I know the one is the goal and the self, and everything we've been talking about is leading to it. And it's the ultimate state of man. The transcendence from the battle between wisdom and ignorance to a new state. But how did it begin everything? If it's the one that unfolded one and many, and that unfolded the manyness of the physical world, how did that work? How did creation come to be? And how is it a creation that came to be that's still all in self somehow? And yet we're returning back to the self somehow. How did the progression happen? That's our question for next time. What a cliffhanger. We've done a lot of wonderful, fun reflection and contemplation and meditation on the map of understanding to perfect our understanding today. And we've seen that, hey, even in that brilliant light of experience, don't identify with it. But also, it's a win-win because, well, it's a win because that's everything that is, because it's the hypoxis. So our jump from the physical to mind leaves us with the greatest experience, so we can just have one thing to point at that isn't the self. So we can take that and use it as a springboard to jump to its cause, the self. That's the meaning of life and stuff and everything. Wow, holy shit. What a fucking banger of a book. Phew. Amazing. Oh, and a special shout out to the person who donated to the channel. That was greatly appreciated. It is a huge help. And yes, thank you again for that. Yeah, we have a small community, but doing my best to keep this happening as often as I can. So because I have to also do music stuff, I'm often quite tired, as I am today. But yeah, hopefully we'll be able to make something sustainable. And hey, my goal is also to have the retreats. I spoke about how awesome those retreats were, and the special Thanksgiving dinner, which was amazing. My first American Thanksgiving at the retreat. So hopefully one day we'll have something like that too. We'll be able to do retreats where we can do this and dream analysis and midwifery and this kind of reading as well for a week. And hey, maybe even down the line we can have colleges. I remember when I was studying this in America, all I wanted was just a room. I didn't care. I just wanted a place to sleep. I was happy anywhere. So if someone said, hey, look, here's a concrete cave, but it's got a door on it, and you can sleep here. Like, neat. I'm in. That's one of my goals, maybe, is to have like a place where anyone, regardless of your income or your wealth, has a room. You have a room. If you want to do philosophy, wherever you're from, you can come. You got a room. And maybe even festivals. I'm a musician after all. Can you imagine an international philosophy festival where people from all around the world can come together and reflect on this kind of stuff and listen to some good tunes? Lots of things to think about in the future, and the person who donated last time is a step in that direction. I don't know what I'm talking about. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Unfolding. Although we probably will review what we've read today, because that's a pretty good insight anyway. The double jump from the physical to mind, and then recognizing that experience is all other. It's self-experiencing all other. So it's like one thing to say that's not me. That's amazing. And next time, maybe progression. How did it all come to be from the beginning? Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. And it's a fun journey, and I appreciate those of you who are on this journey with me. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one. Wink. And then the music. Press the button. There we go. See you in the next one.